It's the Wex Appeal Podcast. Barbells, beats, and buffoonery.
3, 2, 1, go! Here we go.
Dope conversations.
Damn, that's my Genghis Khan.
Where fitness, pop culture, and a lot of random buffoonery collide.
I'm coming for you.
It's ridiculous, really,
Hashtag Space War.
but amusing.
Wex, you laughed least at me, so you get to go next.
Here's your host, Wex.
I was going to say I blacked out during the explanation. I just heard Spaceball.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a live edition of the Wex Appeal Podcast, Barbells, Beats, and Buffoonery. We are live here at my home gym of Tier 1 CrossFit DBP, and I have my friend Shawn from Blackout Barbell. You hear me talk about Blackout Barbell all the time. Well, he is here. We're going to talk about Blackout Barbell and the story of the company and a whole bunch of other just randomness in between, I'm sure. So, Shawn, welcome to the show, man.
I appreciate it. It's been a long time coming.
Absolutely.
You were with us from the jump of the rebirth of what we called it.
Yeah.
The relaunch back in 2022. And then a few months in, we did that giveaway. You won, and you ended up loving the stuff. We reached out, we started communicating a little bit more, and then became a podcast sponsor. And almost 2 years later, here we are.
Yeah, actually,
down here in Ocala.
The hoodie that you're wearing.
The hoodie that
right
I'm
now.
wearing. Yep.
You did a giveaway with that. What was it? You said like 2 years ago or something?
Yeah, I think it was February. It was like probably we launched in 2022 or relaunched in 2022. And I think that giveaway was right there in January or February.
Yeah.
So yeah, you were the first giveaway winner. So and here we are down here 10 hours away from home in Ocala, Florida.
And since then we've done a giveaway on the show.
Yep. With Thunderbro.
Yep, Thunderbro, Strong Coffee,
Yep.
Blackout. Like we had a big giveaway.
Yep. The guy from my hometown won that.
Yeah,
Yep.
which is wild.
Yep.
Which is wild. Because we had a lot of entries.
Yeah.
Like it was
a ton of stuff too.
A ton of people. Who was it? It was
Levi Bates.
Levi. That's right. Levi.
Yeah, he got the full outfit. I think we did a hat, socks, shoes, shirt, weightlifting belt. We had everything.
The whole kit.
Yeah.
The whole kit.
And then all the other guys hooked it up as well too. So. Yeah.
Well, cool, man. And well, thank you for, first of all, the reason we're here, by the time this airs, it'll be over.
Yep.
But we've got the Glow Party going on tonight.
Yep.
GlowCon at Tier 1 CrossFit DBP. Look it up. The videos that are going to come out are going to be insane. We're actually putting black lights throughout the whole entire gym. I'm looking at the gym over on the other side. The rig has neon tape all over it so you can see once the black lights come on. Tonight is going to be wild.
Yep.
So you're going to see videos on my post, on your post, on Tier 1's post. But I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. I'm going to be giving away some Podium. So the only way you can do that is by listening to the show. Obviously, you've had to have listened to this episode. You have to go and like Blackout Barbell. You have to like 321 Podium or follow on Instagram. Follow, of course, the Wex Appeal Podcast. And also follow Tier 1 CrossFit DBP.
Yep.
Follow those four. That's all you need to do. You can tag people. I'll give you an extra entry for tagging people.
There you go.
And I will throw in a free thing of Podium that we are giving away. And
I didn't even know you were doing that. Well, since we're here and I'm on the podcast, let's just do 2 free items of choice off Blackout Barbell too.
Look at that. So 2 free items of choice from Blackout Barbell, a free item from Podium, and I'm going to do we should do a mystery word.
A mystery word?
Yeah.
Like a safe word?
Like there's got to be like a safe word that they put on the post.
With 2 guys in a gym alone. I don't know if that's a conversation I want to be having.
There's going to be a safe word on the post because I'll have to do a post.
Oh, okay, I get what you're saying.
Because they got to like everything.
Here.
So what could we put on there?
Let's do.
So you have to put this safe word on there. We're thinking. I'm looking around. I'm trying to get ideas.
Do GlowCon.
GlowCon.
There we go.
There it is.
Let's just wrap it all in.
So go GlowCon on the post. This is going to be on Instagram, and you'll enter to win you said 2 items of choice for Blackout Barbell.
Anything you want off the website.
And then I've got a HWPO pre-workout from Podium coming for you, and we might throw something else in the back.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever.
GlowCon is GLOWCON.
Yes. So GLOWCON, all one word.
Yeah.
Put that in the comments, and we'll
rock and
see what
roll.
happens.
Yeah.
We'll rock it. Should we tell Levi he's not allowed to? No,
Yeah, Levi can't win it. I think he has everything of Blackout Barbell. He literally buys me out every time that I drop something new. So he's awesome, man.
He's a good dude.
He's a good dude. He is.
But anyways, I wanted to have you on the show a long time ago.
Yep.
We're here, so thought about doing it live. We had lunch yesterday.
Yep.
At Big Lee's.
Yep.
This is the second podcast in a row I'm talking about Big Lee's.
Yep. They're not messing around.
They're not messing
No.
Serious about barbecue. That's
Yep.
that's what they call it.
Yeah, we got in that conversation at Wadapalooza, and we got an argument about the best barbecue, and I was like, oh, this place up in Alabama's won 13, whatever, state championship, whatever it is, I don't know.
Yeah.
And you were talking about this place, and then you sent me the post on the way home of their Instagram, and I was like, he already won.
Yeah.
Like, you could just tell immediately. We go there yesterday, have lunch for about an hour and a half, talk a little bit. Everything was incredible. I went back to the hotel room, got in a little coma. It was, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad, but it was great. So if y'all are ever in Ocala, definitely check that out.
So check it out. But we want to have you on the podcast. We want to talk about kind of the origin story.
Yep.
You know, because I know you guys have some deep roots.
Yep.
There's been changes over in like the original founding of the company and owners and all that sort of stuff. So kind of take us back to the beginning of Blackout Barbell, how it came about, how you came up with the idea of Blackout Barbell, and then kind of the evolution that
where
has
we're at today.
come from there.
Yeah. So it was back in 2018. My wife's brother Shay, and my brother-in-law, and his wife Lisa, they owned a nutrition shop in Coleman, Alabama, from where I'm from. So we're right between Birmingham and Huntsville, about 10 hours away from here, so a long way from home. But anyway, so we were up there, and they owned this nutrition shop. Shay also was a foreman at Alabama Power. So he did line work. That was his main job. Nutrition shop was just kind of his little side gig. So he'd be up there all the time. And then one of our other buddies, his name was Colton Terry. He owned CrossFit Coleman with my old college roommate, and ended up, now it's M3 Health and Performance. But at the time, Colton came up to the shop. He was getting some supplements and everything, and him and Shay were sitting on the couch talking, and they're like, dude, we just want to come up with this brand. Like, this was Shay. He was just like, every time you got around him, it was like 9 other business ideas, you know. So he was just like spitting this off. Colton, you know, bid on the idea, and they just came up with the name and the logo and all this kind of stuff. Ended up, I think the first drop was probably 5 shirts and like 3 different pairs of shorts. So they took that and just hit a couple local CrossFit competitions. But the idea, Shay was like really big into bodybuilding. He was like 6'4", 250 pounds, big old dude.
Yeah.
And so the idea was like, Shay was like, hey, I know the bodybuilding world, you know CrossFit. Let's try and get this together, and let's merge it, and let's just hit all aspects of fitness over here, or just those two, and see if we can grow it into something, you know, pretty big.
Yeah.
So they did a couple local CrossFit competitions in Alabama, and it had a good local response. You know, you're seeing people at the gym wearing it all the time and all this kind of stuff, and we're like, okay, cool, this is awesome. And ended up, Shay gets a call to go out to California. So he was going to go out there to Ventura, California, and he was going to be a foreman on one of the crews out there. So paid like excellent money. So he moved out there. His wife and kids stayed at home. He would come back, you know, simultaneously just to spend time with family and stuff. So while he was out there, you know, the brand kind of went to the wayside. You know, you had COVID coming along. I was like, they've got 6 kids between the two of them. Shay's got 2. Colton now has 4. You know, kids and practices, and I mean, me and you both,
Four kids here too.
Four, yeah, I'm 2, you're 4, so. So yeah, it gets busy. So that you know, they weren't keeping up with the website, they weren't keeping up with the social media, and so Shay comes back. We do like a yearly beach trip down in Orange Beach, and so the whole family comes down there. So one day, me and Shay grabbed a drink. We headed out to the water. We're just floating around. We're just talking. And I was like, dude, you know, me and Shay, we're both like this serial entrepreneur mindset. We're like, we can't help it. Like, we just have to, we see potential in anything. So when we get around each other, it's just like, you know, stuff that we've been wanting to do. And ended up, you know, we finally, you know, we're just talking about a bunch of stuff that we're never going to follow through on, you know, a bunch of outlandish left field stuff. But I ended up bringing up Blackout. And I was like, hey, that's something that you did have. It did really well, had a good response. And let's see I was like, why don't we see if we can get that up and running again? And he was like, well, Colton, you know, owns all the business interest in it now. And so I was like, okay, cool. So we left that beach trip. I hit up Colton, and I was like, hey, man, I'm looking to do something in the fitness apparel industry. I was like, I have a really big want to do something there. I was like, I know that you have this. I was like, I didn't know if you wanted to partner and we can kind of, you know, bring it back. Just whatever you want to do. And he's like, no, I've seen it go from, you know, just a garage to a warehouse overnight. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, let's do that.
Yeah.
Like, I want to help you do that. Like, I feel like I have the vision for it. And I feel like I've got all the next 5 years planned out in my head perfectly. So let's see if we can do it. So he's like, nah, he's like, I don't know. He's like, I think it's my baby. I'm gonna hold on to it. So the following year rolls around, and I messaged him again. I was like really getting serious about doing something. So I messaged him again. I was like, hey, just gonna drop this back in your ear. Just wanted to double check. He was like, dude, it's so crazy because we just left church, and he was like, I was just talking to my wife about like, dang, I want to get Blackout started back up again. I feel like I missed the boat on Shawn, blah blah blah. And he's like, you literally just texted me.
Nice.
So he was like, this is God. And so I was like, all right, cool. Well, let's come over to my house, and we sat in my office for a little bit, and we kind of just concocted this plan of what we're going to do for the next couple of years and how we're going to get back off the ground. So we did that, and we start getting the groundwork built up and the idea of it. And then 3 weeks later, we get a phone call that dang, I've told this story so many times, dude.
It's all good, man. It's all good.
Shay had passed away in a motorcycle accident. So, that just kind of kicked up the fire to, for us to really go through with it. And my dad passed when I was 4, and him having those 2 daughters, I was like, it just really hit home to me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I really want to, do something so that his girls can kind of see this part of, Shay live on, his little dream. So, so we got to work, and ended up, I was like, hey, let's not do anything, let's not post anything, let's not come out with anything or make it public for all of 2022. This is in March. Mm-hmm. So we planned all the rest of the year. Like I redid I didn't know how to create a website. I got on there, figured it out, created our entire website. I was like, for our social media, I was like, we got to come back and it's got to look professional, Yeah. So we did professional videography and photography and all this kind of stuff just to make it look good. And then I just came in there and I matched. I was like, he had like $11,000 worth of inventory, so I was like, I'm just going to come in here and I don't want to write you a check for half of that. Let me just write you a check. We'll just do for the full amount, and I'll just buy $11,000 worth of new stuff, and then we'll just go get the paperwork done. We're 50-50 owners, moving on. Sure. So, so that happens, and then January 1 of last year, we launched, and we already had like 6 months of content packed up and ready to go and everything. So,
and that marketing is what caught me.
Yeah,
like that's what got me. I was like, oh man, this is fierce.
Yeah, with the X's on the eyes, dude. That's still my favorite video. Yeah. I've probably used it like 9 times. I need to get a new video done with that one, but I was like, that one just really pulls it back in. I love the way those X's were. But so yeah, we did that, and then Colton owned the gym still at this time. I was a salesman for a rental company, so I was doing rentals and sales for H&E Equipment up in Madison, Alabama. Yeah. So selling bulldozers, excavators, rollers, all this kind of stuff. Also did real estate on the side, and then we were doing this on the weekends. So me and him were like jam-packed Monday through Friday, jumping in the car Friday, going to a competition, coming back Sunday night, jumping back to work Monday, Yeah. And it was just this repetitive cycle of like we never get to rest. Like you're packaging orders after work, you're doing event coordination, all this kind of stuff, content. There's so much replying back to people. So there's just so much that goes into it, and it got a lot. So we ended up doing probably 9 competitions last year for our first year on the weekends, and then Colton ended up having his 4th baby, and it just got too much. His other kids were getting a little bit older, T-ball, all this on the weekends, blah, blah, blah. He's running camps at the gym.
I know that. Yeah, I know that life.
It's a lot.
Baseball is life right now.
It's a lot. So he was like, hey man, he's like, look, I love what we've been doing, but he's like, I got to pull out. Like I got to be dad, And I was like, I completely understand. So, so we went up to the office and we redid the paperwork and everything, and I bought him out. And right when he did that, I sold my 4Runner and my enclosed trailer and went and bought that Mercedes Sprinter van. And I was like, I Googled it. I was like, just utility van. I pulled that up. It was all black rims already. I'm like, that's perfect. The one right there. Perfect. So I called the guy. I'm like, hey, can you deliver this Monday? It was from Memphis, and he got it to me there. Threw a couple $100 worth of stickers on it, and started hitting the ground running. So I'm still working at the rental place, still doing real estate. So this is like 3 careers at once. Oh yeah. I've got 2 kids. They were 2 and 3 at the time. 12 months apart, and then my wife's love language is quality time. So I'm like, I've got all these plants to water. I'm like just trying to figure out, I'm still trying to find place and time for me, look up some like UFC or fantasy football or something, you know what I mean? Just have something that I can, just take my mind off of things.
We'll get on that fantasy football. Like I am down to put a league together.
Yeah, let's do it.
Get some people.
Let's do it.
Just taking a quick second to tell you about Blackout Barbell. I mean, that's what the whole show is about today, right? I'm talking to Shawn about Blackout Barbell. So go to blackoutbarbell.shop, use code WEXAPPEAL to get 10% off your order, and keep an eye out for the new gear, the Wex Appeal podcast collaboration gear with Blackout Barbell that's going to be coming out hopefully by Wadapalooza. So if you are going to be in Miami, come pick up your Wex Appeal podcast shirt with Blackout Barbell. Also, with the show today, if you go to the Instagram page that is announcing this show and put in the special word GlowCon, you could get free Podium and 2 free items from Blackout Barbell. So go, do it. GlowCon in the comments, tag your friends. You have to like Tier 1, Podium, 321 Podium, Blackout Barbell, and of course the Wexfield podcast. Get in it today. I like my coffee. I like my coffee strong. And Strong Coffee Company is the way to do it. Not just because of the fact that it's super easy and it is the easiest way to start your morning, but also because it has L-theanine, MCT oil. It has neurofactor. Basically, make your brain operate at its full potential by using Strong Coffee Company. Also, makes you look good, feel good. There's no downside to this. So all you need is some hot water and a scoop of Strong Coffee Company, and you are in the game, okay? So go to strongcoffeecompany.com, use code WEXAPPEAL, get 15% off your order. I'm telling you, there's no better way to start your day than Strong Coffee Company. So get it hooked up, strongcoffeecompany.com, use code WEXAPPEAL to save 15% off your order. Start your year off strong.
So anyway, when we did the buyout, this was right before Christmas. This was the 2 months before Wadapalooza, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what I'm doing. Like this is just too much for one guy to just completely handle all of it. We made it work, and then ended up, that was in December, and I was just sitting there, I was like, I need to go full force in this. So I'm sitting there at my rental job, my work truck. I'm up in Madison, Alabama at this Publix in a parking lot, and I'm like, I feel like the Lord was like really telling me to quit. And I'm like, okay. I was like, I go to pull my phone out of my pocket, and it's my boss calling me. And he's like, hey, what's up? He's like, hey, the vice president wants to come in and interview you for a district sales manager position. And I'm like, I'm about to quit. So I'm like literally stuck on this fence on this phone call, and I'm like, dang it. Like I would really made up my mind, put a lot of prayer and thought into it. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he gives me this. So I'm like, dang, that's a good opportunity. So I'm like, all right, don't make a rash decision right now. I was like, oh yeah, cool. Tell him to come on up. Yeah. So
I'm a big proponent on always listen.
Yeah.
Like listen to everything and then kind of weigh your options.
Yeah. And it's like the older you get, you realize that that's a superpower. Yeah. Like just being able to be quiet, being able to process things. But so guy comes up and he interviews me, and everything went super great. And he interviewed a couple other guys in the district, and he was like, oh yeah, I'll know something by January 29th. I'm like, okay, cool. So this is like mid-December. I was like, I gotta wait a month and a half before I even hear something. So we're sitting there, and I'm like waiting around.
That was like the week after Wadapalooza too.
Yeah. Yeah. So and like while I'm at Wadapalooza, I've got my iPad and I'm sitting here putting in rental deals. Like, oh yeah, you need an excavator over here to Boeing or blah blah blah. I'm like doing all this stuff, slinging shirts. I was like, this is crazy. So ended up he never called on January. I followed up and it was like, oh, we're still going through the process, blah blah blah. February 29th rolls around, and then March we get in there, and I'm like, okay, and it's not that he hasn't hired me, he hasn't hired anybody. Yeah. So they're just sitting on their hands about it, and I'm like, okay, well I need to know something, because I'd kind of taken the wind out of my sails of like, I'm not going to be full force into trying to gain more territory or new customers or anything. Like I feel like I'm about to go in this position where I'm training everybody. Yeah. So my mind had completely flopped, and ended up I was the number one sales guy in the Southeast for the entire company, and I was like, I knew we had a conference in Orlando the weekend after Beach Brawl. Okay. So I was like, I'm gonna go down there, get my award, and then I'm gonna bounce. So I was like, if he hasn't called by then, I was like, I'm bouncing right when the plane hits down in Birmingham. So we go down there, and I go across the stage, get my award, shake the president of the company's hand, and right when we head home, I was like, no phone call. I was like, I'm gonna make you one. And I was like, made him one. And I was like, hey, I'm putting my 2 weeks notice, blah, blah, blah. And so the president of the company calls me immediately. He's like, hey, what's going on? He's like, what's going, you're doing great, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, I was like, I know, I just got this whole other thing on the side working. I was like, I really want to just dive into it and, kind of allocate those 40 to 60 hours a week and see what I can do with this rather than, sitting here. And he's like, all right, well, he's like, I was going to try and beg you back, but sounds like you made up your mind. And I'm like, yes, sir. And he's like,
at least you didn't do it on stage.
Exactly.
Like shake his hand and be like, by the way, I quit.
Yeah, just then flick him off.
Just pull him in and be like,
exactly.
By the way, consider this my 2 weeks.
Exactly. I'm just whispering in his ear. He's up there. But yeah, so he was like, yeah, go ahead. And I was like, he's like, door's always open. I'm like, all right, cool. At least I got a good fallback plan, and I know that I can succeed in this business.
I'm big on never burning bridges.
Oh yeah, keep them all. You got to make a reference on a resume at some point or another. So we did that, and I just hit the ground running with it. We had already, because you're planning these competitions months ahead of time. So I had stuff for the weekends, and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna hit these weekend competitions, and then after a month, I was like, hey, this is getting, I'm getting bored. I was like, I'm already caught up on all this other stuff, and so I made that post, and it said, hey, in between competitions, we're gonna start doing pop-up shops at gyms all day through the weekdays.
Yeah.
And so I make that post, and then 28 gyms from Boston to Miami reached out within 24 hours. Wow. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, what did I just...
There's gonna be a couple local competitions.
I did too, yeah. I thought it was gonna be like the surrounding states or something.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, this stuff is all over. And so I got this app called Map It, and then I started putting in all the addresses and seeing where all the pins were, and I was like, okay, let me coordinate where, hey, I'm going to this event, this competition up in New Jersey, let me leave 2 weeks early and hit, 6 pop-up shops, and then in the competition, I'll knock out that little front up there, so... And now, that was back in June, and like you guys are, still. I think you guys are the last one.
Yeah.
So it's taken me.
End,
yeah. So literally, this is the last one. So I'm doing the Central Florida run, and I did, 4 this week. I'm heading home tonight. But yeah, it was, all 28 of them are done. The only one I couldn't get to was the Boston one because it was just a little too far out of the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been crazy, and it's just like I love it because it's just like you're going around and. You're getting to have like a more intimate, setting to where you're not like at Wadapalooza or Beach Brawl or something where it's like everything's just crazy and you got all these POS systems running.
Yeah, and if you've never been to Wadapalooza, like it's drinking out of a fire hose.
It's insane.
It's just insanity. You're just trying to survive.
It's insane.
Kind of make it happen.
Yep.
I come from a life of retail, so like Christmas season, it's like CrossFit or Christmas.
It is.
You're running around Wadapalooza all over the place.
And not to mention, that was like the first month where I was just by myself.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so, Kevin Colton there was awesome all these months, but then it was like, right when he bounced out, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I gotta front this whole ship, so.
Yeah.
It was a little crazy.
And Wadapalooza was wild. You guys hit the scene, hit it running. I know Wadapalooza, the Tier Wadapalooza this year, a lot of rain, so it's a little rough conditions, but overall, it's wild. I go out and see the brand all over the place.
Yeah.
And I think I text you from semifinals and ACC, Atlantic Coast Classic, Tampa Bay games. I'm like, take a picture. You're like, hey, look.
Yep.
Saw another blackout.
It's awesome. I love it.
So you see it I'm starting to see it everywhere, which is awesome. As somebody who's been been there from the beginning and sponsored by, I was like, awesome. And, I want to see the people that I'm supporting and that support me. I want to see them do good.
Yep.
So it's been really cool. So what kind of how was that adjustment from going from I have to say 9 to 5, but I know how those sales jobs are. They're not 9 to 5.
Not
but going
all.
from a secure 9 to 5 to here we go.
So from the point of like sales and like cold calling or getting in touch with these gyms to set it up and everything, this is child's play because I'm used to like waking up and like getting in the truck, pulling up on like a job scene where they're putting up this huge hotel or these huge apartment complexes, and I've got to walk in to the job trailer of this this GC who's pissed off and just a good old boy, and he's just like doesn't want another sales rep coming in his door. So I'm like, hey, you want to rent some stuff? You know what I mean? So it was there was a lot of that. So this is just so much easier. It's like that's what I love to do. You know, I just wanted to be in the fitness area and just being able to talk this lingo and all this kind of stuff. It's just more my speed.
Yeah.
And it's a passion, and it's like one of those things. Like you said, sales. It's you're working 9 to 5. Like I was doing the rental portion of that and visiting people, but after hours, like I was like on Facebook Marketplace, like posting all these pictures of dozers and all this kind of stuff, selling that stuff. So it never ends. But yeah, it's been crazy. You know, my wife, she's been a stay-at-home mom for 5 years now, and we have 2 kids. They're 3 and 4. They just turned 3 and 4 back in October. They're 12 months apart. So yeah, like going from being like, oh hey, you're the #1 sales guy at this huge equipment company to like, oh, you're going to sell t-shirts for a living. It's like I've gotten so many side eyes about it, you know, and it's like one of those things, like I'm not going to obviously put my family in jeopardy. Like I've seen enough where I'm like, okay, I can make this jump now, you know, even if we're just a year and a half in. And it was like, you know, it was a lot of prayer, and you know, I'm a big believer in that. And it was just one of those things, like, you know, the signs were pointing to, you know, expanding, doing all these trips. You know, I'm constantly on the road, and you know, it takes a lot for my wife to be able to do that as well. Yeah. You know, she's by herself, and she's wrangling these 2 kiddos, and they got they're angels, they're awesome kids. But you know, it's still tough. Yeah. You know, and then, you know, it's like you got to factor in too, like, I just called her the other day when I was up in Maryland doing a pop-up shop. I was just like, hey, I was like, I just want to say, you know, thank you. Like you never call, and like I'm sitting here talking. I can I'd be at the beach or up in New York or something, and I'm talking to women about bras and shorts and all this different stuff. And it's like being around, like, you know, half-dressed women all the time, you know, working out. I was like, but you never like get in your head, and you never call me or hound me or anything about that. It's just like we've built up such a good trust system over 7 years of marriage, and it's like, you know, it's like that stuff's very hard to come by. And I was like, I was like, I don't know why I've been taking that for granted, but I was like, if that wasn't, you know, one of the pieces, I was like, none of this would work. Yeah, if you weren't secure in your relationship. No. That's the same thing with this. Yep. You know, with podcasting and CrossFit and like you said. Yep. What's the first thing that happens in a CrossFit gym? Shirts come off. Exactly. Exactly. Women have sports bras on. But, you know, like guys take the shirts off, women take the shirts off. It's just like everybody's running around, you know, as little clothing as possible because it's hot. And you're having to message girls too. So I'm like, I'm sitting in bed, and then we're just like watching a video, and then like this girl sends a message. It's like, obviously we're talking business about something, and she's, you know, but it's still just like, there's little things that you could get in your head about, and a lot of couples do these days. But I mean, I'm super blessed when it comes to her. Like she's been a rock for sure. Now, my wife doesn't listen to the podcast because she listens to me enough already. But if she's listening, thank you. We'll take this time to shout out our wives who have been saints in all of this, and rock for us to basically go after our passions. Exactly. This is a passion project. You know, 100%. The podcast. So, tell me a little bit about how you got connected with Pensacola. So Pensacola Beach Brawl, you had your own stage or your own floor. You had the main floor, which was all decked out in blackout, which is awesome. So how you got connected with them and kind of how that evolved, and of course, you know, Wadapalooza, you get in with those guys. Right. Dylan's at Pensacola, and you know, we're going to try and get you down to Tampa. You know, get you to all the ones that I'm at. So how did that whole thing evolve? So I mean, like I said, we relaunched in January of last year, 2023. The spring beach brawl was in March, and then their fall one is in September. So that first one in March, we just go down there with a little 10x10 setup and didn't really have much to offer, you know. We go down there and we're like, oh my gosh, like this place is incredible. Like for the price that's what I love about Brian. He doesn't charge outrageously, and then like the traffic that you get there is insane. The vibe is incredible. It's probably my favorite competition. I'm excited. It's incredible. I'm excited because you got me. I'm telling you, got me hooked up with them. It's incredible. So WXPL podcast will be at the Pensacola Beach Brawl. Yep. So we're gonna do a live podcast stage. Wex Appeal presented by Blackout Barbell, and try and get some big names in there. We've already got a few. Few we're working on. Yeah. One's plugged in for sure that I know you guys will love. Yes, but one's for sure, and then we'll work on the others. Yep. So we got some time. But yeah, we definitely have it's in March. Yep. I think 22nd to the 23rd. Yeah. So stay tuned. We're going to be posting a lot of stuff about Wadapalooza first. Tier Wadapalooza going on in Miami Beach. Yep. You'll be there. Yep. I'll be there. Miami is a vibe. It's a blast. It is a vibe. It is a blast. It's crazy. Yep. But they're moving locations. So we're moving from Bayfront Park over to Miami Beach. Yep. So we'll see. I'm excited about that. See how all that shakes. It looked like it did well over in SoCal, you know, when they were over there. So it's fantastic. I'm excited. If it went well over there and they're bringing it back here, I was like, something must have been good. So you know. I sidetracked. Pensacola Beach Brawl. Yeah. Going on March, yeah. How'd you get connected with? We just go down there, and obviously, you know, I just introduce myself to Brian, and it's like one of those things where it's like an event coordinator or somebody's having us in for a pop-up shop. Like, you're making that connection too. And it's like, I always like deck them out with free stuff and blah, 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 whatever. And then we come back that fall for the fall beach brawl. That one crushes again. And it's like, me and Brian just start to make this relationship. And Brian's just like, he's such a nice guy, but he's also like very serious about his ways and what he wants and how he's going to orchestrate it. And it's like, he's just amazing when it comes to that stuff. So he's always down for expansion. So we just kind of, then we go to the next spring and we go to the next fall. And then now, after that one, or after the spring of this year, he calls and he's like, hey, he's like, you want to do a Blackout Barbell arena? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, let's do like the main floor. We got a couple floors. He's like, we're going to get you on the main floor. It's going to be Blackout Barbell Arena. We're going to name it that, the workout, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, heck yeah, dude, that's awesome. I was like, because this is my second year here, and I'm like, dude, it's crazy that he trusts me that much, know? And so we do that, and that was a hit. And this year I could tell, I had so many people just coming up, MCs just being like, dude, Blackout is everywhere, I feel like this was really the year that it actually took off, and I feel like everyone was kind of jumping on board, and I was like, man, this is just incredible, so yeah, we got, he knows that I'm always down for crazy ideas, or let's put money towards this, or whatever you want to do. I want to be with that competition and see it grow. That's my favorite one. It's just a couple hours down the road, from my house. And so Brian's a good guy. Got Carlos down there. Obviously we got the collab shirt with him, and that's been explosive on its own. So it's like that little hub right there of people is just. I just want to see it flourish. And so you called me. I was staying at the beach a couple of days after the competition. You give me a call while I'm out on the beach playing with the kids, and you're like, hey, we want to do a podcast stage, like we did at Waterpalooza. And I'm like, hold on, give me 2 seconds. I called Brian. I'm like, hey, it's like, would you want to do a live podcast stage? It's like the podcast I sponsored, for the past year and a half. He's interested. He's like, dude, I've been wanting to do that for years. He's like, call him back, tell him yes. So gave you a call. It was literally 3 minutes. From the time you texted me to the answer I gave you. And then
the text group began.
Yeah, and then I threw you all in the group text, and we just took off with it. And
then I was up there for work and got to have lunch with him and kind of sit down and hash out a whole bunch of stuff. And, what we want to do and what it's going to look like, and it's going to be cool. It's going to be a different type of vibe. So if you've been to Tier Waterpalooza, I got to remember that. Tier.
Yeah, you got to say it. It's in my packet that I just got for this year.
I'm a sponsored man with I'm a hired hand for the for Tier Waterpalooza, so I got to remember it is Tier Waterpalooza. But it's a completely different vibe that it's going to be in Pensacola than it is in Miami, because Miami we have a stage and it's set up. Similar to what some of the people did at the CrossFit Games, is they would just have a tent and just kind of do a live podcast right from that tent. Similar to kind of how we're doing here. Just two people just cutting it up. There's going to be people walking around. It's going to be a vendor village. Everybody can come up and watch, listen, ask questions. We'll interact with the crowd. It's going to be a really cool time. So if you're in the Pensacola area in March, definitely come by and check it out. It's going to be fun.
It's one not to miss, because they've got a floor on the beach, but then it's like there's the road, and then the vendor village, and all the comp floors and all this kind of stuff. But it's like you can just bounce back, and it's like literally I can throw from my tent. I could throw 2 baseballs as far as I can. I'd be hitting the water. It's like you just got you're literally on the beach, kind of similar how it's going to be now for Tier Waterpalooza. And it's just like that vibe right there is just unmatched. Everyone's just such a good. Yeah, you got DJ Trevi down there. He's killing it all the time.
And the Gulf Coast is. It's completely different from the East Coast. West Coast is awesome. I love the water. It is so clear and blue, and you can you see what's going on.
Exactly.
Not a lot of trade routes from all the cruise ships. And all that sort of stuff. Kicking up everything in the east.
That's right.
So it's gonna be fun. But so how did Blackout, the name and logo? How did that come about? Because that's the thing that caught me. The X's, I was like, that is. To
be honest, I think Colton has told me that story back when we started to get in business, and but I really can't remember it. I think it was just there's no meaning behind it. It was just hey, we like this word and we like this look, and it was just boom, okay, and then it kind of just goes together and it sticks, and so I think whenever there's really no meaning behind it, and I think that was one of my biggest sticking points whenever I was trying to buy into the business. I was like, hey, let's get a firm grip on what Blackout is, having a meaning behind it, and it's you know, it's just like, obviously, you know, when you're at that point where, you know, you get to that the point in your workout, you know, it's like everything goes dark, and you know, it's like you just got to tap into that next spot. But it's weird. Like, I was thinking about it while I was driving, because I'm like 50 hours of windshield time just this month. But you know, just kind of letting that evolve, and it's like, just, I think, you know, being able to black out. You know, I'm a man of faith too, you know, and it's like, you know, all these attacks from the enemies. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff being thrown at you, whether you struggle with addiction or pornography or anything like this, you know, and just being able to, you know, like, you wear the logo, like you're taking, you know, a stance on, like, hey, look, like, I'm going to try to be the best version of myself, whether that's in the gym. You know, I hope that translates to, you know, you being the best father, you being the best spouse, you know, and us always trying to push forward and, like, go to that next spot where it's not comfortable, and it's like, you know, you got to hit the rough patches, you know, to grow, you know, and always growing with your spouse, and, you know, growing as your kids grow, and, you know, just being a good man, you know, whether you believe in, you know, whatever your beliefs are, you know, with God or anything. It's just like, that's my personal belief, and, you know, it's a huge part of my life. And so
same with our family.
Exactly.
Too.
Exactly. And, you know, and I used to not be a believer up until I was 24. So, you know, I've been on the other side of that fence too. And it's like, you know, so I'm not into the whole, like, push it in your face and everything like that. You know, it's just, you know, I want to, you know.
It's something that people got to come to themselves.
It is. And I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Because I grew up in church.
Yep.
So I was you know, from as early as I can remember, parents were always had us in church.
Yep.
And it's just like, okay, well, that's just the thing you do. And
Exactly.
Then, you know, you gotta, like, I grew up in the church, and then I left for a while.
Yep.
Then ended up coming back, and I was like, okay,
Yep.
now this is for
Now
me.
you understand.
Now this is for me,
Yep.
not for my family, you know, not
Exactly.
for my parents, and you know, and that. So
Exactly.
it's cool. But
Yep.
yeah, like you said, it's like, I always hated when people would come, you know, knocking on the door. And be
Yep.
like, hey, you need to. You
Yeah.
know. But at the same time, you know, I'm more about the conversations.
Exactly.
You know,
and I think that's how you get it. And I've realized that too. It's like, there's nothing that you know, if somebody's coming up and asking, you know, there's like 3 things that you don't talk about: money, religion, and politics, you know. Politics is definitely off the table for me. Money, I'll talk to you if we're going into business or some sort. That's the only exception. And then for, you know, when we're talking about the Lord, it's like, you know, I think just being an example of being the best person that you can be, and acting everything out that you're actually reading daily. And just being the best human and guiding them. I'm just a big believer that I'm not gonna be able to change your mind, because I've debated so many people back when I didn't believe, when I was agnostic about this stuff. And, you know, it's like no one was changing my mind. It almost made me even further back. I was like, I don't know, because you're saying this, but you're doing that, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, now I realize, like, we're all just broken. You know, we're all in a fallen world. And, you know, I think it was just, somebody said it so well one time. It's like, you know, the Bible and, like, the Lord is like a Wi-Fi router, and the further you are away, it's like you're just not going to get any signal. So it's like you have to do the works of opening it up, understanding the Lord, who He is, you know, His, you know, personality, and you know, creating that personal relationship, and letting Him meet you where you're at, you know, whether it be addiction or, you know, any of those other things we mentioned earlier. So.
And then understanding you're not perfect.
Exactly, and that's the big part. Exactly.
Because that's the biggest thing. That was the biggest thing growing up, is like, oh, you always put these people on a pedestal.
You really do.
Put the certain person on a pedestal, and they always disappoint you.
Oh, yeah. Because I was afraid to go to church. Like, I was like, oh, everyone's goody two-shoes and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get judged. And, you know, like the whole saying, like, the roof's going to fall in.
Yeah.
But it was just like the church I go to is called Desperation. And it's like, I love that name, because it's like, we are all desperate in here, you know, just to know the Lord more. So it is, I love that journey. And I think, like, if you got a good church family, like, you know, I do, you know, small groups and men's groups and all this kind of stuff. And then, you know, the gym family, I was like, if you got those 2 communities, it's like, dude, it's tough to fail, you know.
Absolutely.
Tough to fail mentally, you know, like you're going to have a good support system.
Well, and that's anywhere you go.
Yeah.
If you have a good support system, whether it be in the church or in the gym, or both, is great. But I mean, you saw it in here. You were here for the 9 o'clock class. You're here for the 6 a.m. class. But we're pushing everybody to 7, like to tonight.
Gonna get rowdy tonight.
But 9 o'clock was about half capacity from what we normally have. But even then, we're cutting back and forth, and we're you know, we're I don't want to say we're criticizing each other. We're giving each other a hard time.
Oh yeah, and that's when you know you're good friends. You know, that's my wife. She's always like, God, she's like, why are y'all friends? I'm like, this is how guys show that we like each other.
Yeah.
Like,
if I'm
we feel
not
comfortable
calling
enough,
you out on something,
exactly.
You know,
Like, this is how we pass time. It's just fun. So,
In fact, Ron, the guy I teamed up with today,
Yeah.
he and I go back and forth all the time. And yesterday, it was really weird because he sent me a message about, hey, I appreciate, the things that you're doing and stuff like that, and told me things that, that we're doing for Christmas and, with the gym. And he was like, I just wanted to thank you, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, and I had posted on my story about he's 53. And he's in here killing it. Like,
dude, he's in some shape. Yeah,
he's in great shape. And we posted a video yesterday of AJ like getting in the camera and be like, "This is the geriatric in his unnatural form or unnatural habitat." And I posted it saying, "This is awesome to see, somebody out here doing it, and I hope that anybody this age is be like Ron."
Exactly.
And I'm like, all this complimenting stuff. Like we need to cut this stuff out. This is not good. Like,
need a safe word. You got to get out of here.
He's like, I'm just gonna send you a picture of me flicking you off.
Yeah.
Like just kind of clear the palate.
Just get it back to normal. Let's get back to normal status.
But it's so important to have a community, and that's 100%. Kind of the thing that really brought me back into, like, you get into CrossFit and you do it and you do it and you do it, and then you just kind of burn out.
Yep.
With anything. Yep. It's not just CrossFit, but going to the gym.
Yep.
Doing the the bodybuilding stuff and like the 5 sets of 10 and
exactly.
The whole thing. You just get burned out until you find people who push you.
Exactly.
And coming in here and coming to this gym has been just phenomenal for me.
Yep.
It's just a complete change of pace. I came from a gym where I was the head coach.
Yep.
So I didn't get coaching.
Yeah.
And here I get coached. I'm an L2 trainer, but I still need coaching.
Oh yeah.
So
you're never gonna be perfect at it. I think that's the thing about life. Like you once you realize that, like I'm never gonna be the perfect husband. I'm never gonna be a perfect dad. Like never gonna be the perfect Christian or whatever you are, or never gonna be the perfect athlete. Like that's the cool thing. It's like I don't see how people get bored. I'm like, dude, there's so much stuff to work on. So much stuff to read up on. Like it's just that stuff is so intriguing to me, and it's just like, who can we be in 30 years? Like it's just so disheartening to see the people who've just been like, oh well, this is just the job I'm doing, and this is where I'm going to be, and they just don't change a lick. I'm like, dude.
So you were asking about the podcast setup.
Yeah.
You're like, so hey, how'd you learn all this stuff? I'm like, trial and error.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we're just. Yeah. I literally have like 3 different types of mics here.
Yeah.
Like I got a handheld mic. I've got these little mics that we have on. I've got mics in the back that are charging, and like trying to just do all the different little setups.
Just doing your reps, get your 10,000 hours in.
This episode is brought to you by 321 Podium. That's right. Podium Nutrition, Podium Supplements is what I use to get my fitness in check. That's right. Go to 321podium.com/Wex Appeal to save 25% off of your order. So why not get the supplements used by the fittest on earth? Jeffrey Adler, Justin Medeiros, Matt Fraser. These guys use Podium. You should too. Go to 321podium.com/Wex Appeal to get 25% off your order. Also, they're doing a big sale come January. They're going to be doing their one and done sale. Get in. Get the discounts, get hooked up all the way around. Get your year on track now. 321podium.com/Wex Appeal. Hook it up. What's up, everybody? It's Wex here with the Wex Appeal Podcast, and I am here with my favorite barbell in the world. It is the Hero Barbell from Hero Barbell Company. This is the Unbroken Bar. It is Colton Merton's signature barbell that was designed just for him. These things spin amazing. If you've seen any of the posts recently, I've been making some huge gains in the gym, and this is one of the things that helps me get there. So if you want to get your own barbell, I highly recommend going to herobarbellcompany.com. Make sure you use the code WEXAPPEAL to get 10% off of your order and get your hands on one of these barbells. You will not be disappointed. I have one. My daughter has one, and they are fantastic in the gym. They hold up great, spin beautifully, and definitely love getting some PRs on these. Get your PRs and get a barbell that you can be proud of. herobarbellcompany.com. Use code WEXAPPEAL.
But that's also, that's how you get to a position where I am with Wodapalooza, with Tier Wodapalooza. I mean, that was wild.
Yeah.
Like I knew Dylan, and the story of how I got involved with
Dylan's awesome. I love that guy.
Yeah. The story of how I got involved with Tier Wodapalooza is I never volunteered or anything with them.
Yeah.
But I knew Dylan because he was an MC for a competition called Central Florida Throwdown.
Mm-hmm.
and I would, talk to him. I was a judge there, and I'd volunteer there, and we just developed a friendship from there. Just kind of a passing friendship.
Yep.
And then it would be, so I've done the booth, or I've done the stage 2 years. The year prior to that, I went as just a podcast host. Somebody reached out in the media and was like, "Hey, we're looking for podcast hosts to come and do this," and it was just thrown together.
Yeah.
There was nothing really.
Is that the one where you're under the tent?
No, we were on the we had a podcast stage, but it was set up in the food court.
Okay.
And it just like there were 2 sets of tents, and there was a stage at the end. And no seating, anything, and it was the only place to get food, and basically it was just packed with people getting food, and nobody could give a crap what was going on stage. Also, the other issue with it was the person who was kind of coordinating didn't really give us a lot of info.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a schedule. You get there on the day of.
Oh God, that's terrifying.
You'd go on an app.
I do not operate well like that.
But you'd go on an app.
Yeah.
You'd find a time that was available and be like, okay, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
Cool, I'm going to take the 11 o'clock spot. Not knowing if the elites are on the stage.
Exactly,
on the main stage or anything like that. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take the 11 o'clock. Now that I have a time, all right, I've got about 3 hours to find somebody to come on the podcast.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Because I couldn't go get somebody. I couldn't come get you on a podcast and be like, hey, Shawn, you want to come on a podcast? What time? I don't know.
Yeah. And it's like you could have over there, like I got 20 people under the tent. It's like, dude, I can't right now.
But especially with the athletes.
Exactly.
You're trying to get athletes. You're trying to get different people. So I mean, I was literally like pulling vendors out of Vendor Village and be like, hey, I think I had Fat Ash Bakes.
Oh yeah, dude, that dude's awesome.
Yeah, I love. But I had
so are the cookies. God,
I had Ashley come on the podcast.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think I've ever met her.
Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. But had her come on the podcast. I pulled John Woolley, he formerly Make Wads Great Again, but now Woolley Memuth. I pulled him up on stage. Never had literally met him that morning. It was like, hey, dude, you want to do a podcast? He's like, sure, whatever.
That's crazy.
Recorded, just grabbing random people.
Yep.
And we just kind of put it together.
Yeah.
But it was
no script,
super chaotic.
Just free balling the whole thing.
Yeah. Like there were sometimes I think I had a slot. I'm like, I haven't got anybody, so we'll just let it go. So it's super chaotic, no structure, didn't really go well. Yeah. So to Dylan's credit, I called up Dylan, prior to the this was 24, 23. It's in January, so it always throws me. Right. 24, 23. So prior to the 23 Tier 1 Palooza, I called him up and I was like, hey man, I'd like to come on as an MC. Like I want to be an MC. I want to be on the floor. I get it. You've never heard me on a microphone before. You don't know what I can do. You can put me on a small stage. I don't care. Just I would like to kind of get my feet wet with that. Also, if you're going to do a podcast stage, here's like some ideas I had.
Structure,
Here's some ideas that I had to
let's start building now.
Build it and put it together. I was like, hey, if we get a schedule, get the podcast hosts ahead of time, put them on a schedule so that they can line up guests and kind of put some structure behind it and this. He's like, I don't want a decision right now from you, but here's the deal. Similar to kind of, with your boss with the job offer. He's like, you can be an MC. Totally. 100%. You can be an MC. You can also be a podcast host and run the podcast stage.
Ooh,
but you can't do both.
Oh man.
He's like because it's impossible. It is impossible. You can't do both. So he's like, you can do one or the other. He's like, I don't want to hear an answer right now, but I want you to think about it. All the ideas that you have are amazing, and I totally think you should run with it.
There you go.
And I was like,
I love people like that.
He's like, call me tomorrow.
Yeah.
He's like, do not tell me today. Call me tomorrow. I was like, all right. So I talked to my wife and I was like, hey, here's the deal. I could be an MC, be on the main floors or on, side stage or whatever. I could be announcing and, like kind of being on the floor, mixing it up with these athletes.
Yep.
Or I could run the podcast stage and potentially have a larger reach as far as people, knowing who the podcast stage is, getting to meet people, contact people. I'm like, she's like, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Gotta go with that one.
You got to go with the podcast stuff. So, 2 years ago, I kind of took the reins on the podcast stage, and they gave me a structure to work in, and gave me a timeline. And
how many podcasts had you done up until that point?
I'd done quite a few. I mean, quite a few for me.
Right.
But I mean, this is going to be podcast number 75.
Yep.
So like, I don't push them out. Like I've got a buddy of mine who has been on the show before, who just did his 1000th episode. And I'm like,
crazy.
that's insane.
I know, dude, Rogan pumping out like 2 or 3 a week.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, Rogan's
how
got
do you
like
have time?
2,000 something podcasts, and not including his MMA ones.
Exactly.
And all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
So, but the biggest thing for me was I don't want to just put out content.
Yep.
I want to actually have people that I talk to. It makes, like, nobody necessarily cares what I say when it comes to talking. I want to, put the spotlight on somebody else.
Right.
I want to put the spotlight on people that I think are interesting. So that's why this whole thing came about.
Yep.
The episode right before this, I talked to Duff Goldman, the
Yep.
chef from the Food Network.
That's crazy.
Like, wild. Like, people that I say all the time, people I have no business being able to talk to. I'm, are coming on the podcast, and it's just, these doors are opening. And it's like, okay, I can do something with this.
It's crazy how, like, once you stick at it for a little bit, like, it's just like, you're like, you look at your phone, you're like, why is this person, like, Paige Powers was just DMing about something this morning. Yeah. And then, like, Dallin Pepper just comes by the booth the other day and, like, sits there for 30 minutes, and we're just talking. It's like, how did we get here? You know what I mean? Well, I was like, I've only been in business for, like, a year and a half.
Well,
and I'm like, what is going on? You know what I mean? I
told you that story yesterday with Rich Froning.
Yep.
Like, just hanging out at Rogue, and he's like, hey, what's up, Lex?
Yeah,
like, come over, and we're just cutting it up. And I'm like, what universe is this? This is crazy.
I know, but then it's like you think it's like it's crazy, and that lifestyle is insane too, because everyone puts them on such a pedestal and all this kind of stuff, and it's like that's got to be so overbearing, because it's like you're going through training and all this kind of stuff. Like your program is already insane as it is, but then you're having all these people, and you're trying to be in good image and all this kind of stuff. But it's like, just get down over there. We're just talking about snowboarding and like he's just such a cool
don't get
dude.
down on Harry Potter.
I'm lost on Harry Potter. I'm not a Harry Potter guy.
We had a big Harry Potter conversation on the podcast. But yeah, like, these guys are so cool and so easy, so great to talk to once you kind of take the step to, and I was telling you yesterday, I had that fangirl. It was a fangirl episode. I had somebody come up. I'm not going to say who. On the
I was about to blur the name out.
She's, since we hung out and we've talked, and like, I don't fangirl as much, but she's still awesome.
Yeah. But you can meet her in March too. I'll line it up.
You can meet her in March. FYI, she'll be there. You can do a little digging. You're going to know exactly who it is. Fit Fest,
I love it.
But it's wild. Like, these people, you start talking, and especially, like, I understand, and I try to be very respectful of their time and their space. That's the absolute biggest thing, because I know, like, especially, like, the guys are one thing, they don't get the DMs that the girls get.
No.
Like, the girls get, like, I was talking to I've talked to Danny Spiegel, I've talked to Danielle Brandon, and I'm like, it's like, I can only imagine the garbage that comes through their DMs, and I'm like, I'm trying to be respectful of their time and their space and who they are, and the way that I talk to them. So I don't fault female athletes or celebrities when you first meet them and they're a little bit standoffish.
Right.
I don't fault them at all, because, like, I hung out with Danielle Brandon at Fit Fest. She's awesome.
Super cool.
She's super cool, super chill, super down to earth. We'll talk to almost anybody.
Yeah.
But also, because we were hanging out and talking and doing the meet and greets and stuff like that, people would come up, and I look at her, and she just looks at me, and I'm like, this guy's, like, we're gonna stand here and make sure that she's safe and good, and this guy's a little weird.
It's wild.
So it's like, it's just a crazy lifestyle. And the guys, like I said, whatever. You know how we are. We don't care.
Yeah.
Somebody crazy comes up, we're just gonna
no girls are hitting us up.
No girls are hitting us up. But, like, just that culture, and I talked to them about that, on the podcast stage. Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah.
Like, how do you, kind of filter that? Of getting all this just barrage of,
because it happens overnight too. It's like there's that one instance, and it's like poof, and it's like everything just changes. And that's crazy.
But it was really cool to see the way that they answered that.
Yeah.
Like, and they hung out with Stella, who Everybody knows Stella.
Everybody knows Stella.
I am not the podcast host.
She's going to be running this podcast.
She's going to be running the podcast. She's done interviews on the podcast before.
That's how you should get. Just have Stella reach out. But hey, you want to come on the podcast? It's like, who's going to tell this girl that?
Are you kidding?
You'll get everybody.
You don't think I haven't used that? No, my daughter has booked a couple of these podcasts because, I was literally told, actually right here at Tier 1, we had a seminar with Fee Sagafi. And Fee and I are friends. We had a blast.
Yeah.
But she came down and did a gymnastics seminar, and she's like, I'll come down and do this gymnastics seminar because she's only like 2 hours away. The only stipulation is Stella has to be there. And I'm like, all right, I'll make sure she's there.
Got it.
She has
She will
to
be
be there in attendance.
Yeah.
But walking around the games, I run into all sorts of people, and they're
Exactly.
like, "Oh, you're Stella's dad."
Yeah.
Like I'm not the podcast host. I'm just Stella's dad. But she has an Instagram following and all that sort of stuff, and she's doing her thing. With
That's awesome.
fitness.
The exposure at that age is incredible.
Yeah.
It's just.
And for all of you who want to come at me in the comments, I run her Instagram page, so she's not 11 years old with full and brain access to social media and that whole can of worms.
Yep.
I run it, I moderate it, I make sure that things are safe and content because she's a young girl and
Exactly.
people are weird.
Yep.
I got a couple messages that I'm just like, hey, buddy.
Have you really? So you tell me, I'll drive. I'll drive down.
Nothing
drive
that is
down.
like overtly,
Right.
but like just give you a weird vibe.
Yeah.
Like I've read some messages from my daughter's Instagram where I'm like, I'm gonna keep an eye on that one, and just in case, like I don't know what.
God, I couldn't sleep at night. There's no
No,
way. I don't have girls. I got 2 boys. Thank God. But
I have 2 girls, 2 boys.
yeah,
So,
I don't know how you do it.
but again, it's like complimentary, but almost like a little bit.
Yeah,
much.
you're on the line.
It's
Yeah.
a little bit much.
Yep.
I'm like,
Yeah, and that's how you gotta be careful. Just in anything that you do, like especially even with this. It's like obviously I'm here by myself. Like I said, my wife's at home. It's like talking to a woman about a bra and how it fits, or shorts and them trying it on, whatever it may be. It's like obviously not trying it on right in front of me, but I'm like,
that's a
oh
whole
hey,
different
blah
conversation.
blah blah. Like, they'll ask like, oh, does this like do this or whatever? I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. But it's like I'm very like. For one, if somebody comes up and it's like you can get a vibe like that, I'm like, hey, yeah, my wife says blah blah blah. I always throw that in there, you know. But it's like, I don't ever want to sit there and like some girl feel, like she can't come up and talk to us about how this fits or whatever. Like you just got to keep it business. Like, I'm very happily married, and it's like nothing whatsoever. Like you're just buying a piece of apparel from me. You know what I mean? And it's like just keep it as it is, And it's like, but yeah, there's some people out there that are just like, you have to watch them. Like if I'm hiring you, it's like I feel like you might slip up one day.
Yeah.
You get down to Wadapalooza or something. You're away from home. Feel like you might have an HR complaint.
so if you're listening, you think, man, that sounds like some of the things I've messaged people. Then stop.
Yeah. Don't be a weirdo.
Don't be that guy. No, don't be weird. Don't be weird.
Don't be a weirdo.
Yeah. So, man, we got like so much stuff coming up.
Yeah.
So much stuff coming up. Tier Wadapalooza coming up in January.
Yeah.
Pensacola Beach Brawl in March.
Yep.
Like I said, I'm trying to get you down to Tampa for Fit Fest.
We could probably do that.
That's gonna be back.
It was already on a date that I had planned. I can't even remember what that was, but
it's like August something.
20th. August 17th. Oh yeah, that was Mayhem on the Mountain in Birmingham.
Yeah.
So that's like an hour away from me. It's a really good competition.
Yep.
But yeah, we can get it on the books, and it's like hopefully that's my goal is to, hire some people now, because it's like, dude, I thought quitting my job, like, and allocating those 40 to 60 hours a week, like I'd be able to, swim freely and catch up on all this stuff. And it's like, if I get an opportunity, I always say yes to it, for the most part. And it's like, dude, I'm already almost back underwater now. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I got design, I've got event coordination, doing the events, driving to the events, inventory, returns, like there's all sorts of stuff, content, like it's just constant. It's like, now I feel like I'm watering too many plants in this, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's the time where you got to come back and be like, okay, I need to allocate this to somebody else.
Yeah.
So
going to the future, this is your last pop-up shop for kind of this season or this run.
Yeah. Maybe I'm in talks for December.
So if there's a gym that's listening that's like, hey, I want to have them come in, what do they do?
Yeah. Just go to Blackout Barbell on our Instagram, and you can just say, hey, I'm interested in doing a pop-up shop. We are here in this state, and I can kind of map it. I've already got a bunch of events lined up for next year. So like I said, like I look at the event and then I look at your area and be like, okay, hey, I can leave a couple days early or hit that event and then leave a couple days after, and then kind of, break up the job, do that on the way home.
Yeah.
So it's good for me because it's like you break up the job, you get to meet a lot of cool new people and everything. You actually get to have conversations instead of being super busy. So I love the pop-up shops. But yeah, that's kind of my goal. Instead of me covering, Maine to Miami right now, like having, hey, here's your, get a couple, territory sales reps. Hey, here's your 3 to 4 state territory.
Yeah.
You hit up all the gyms, and see if you can do pop-up shops. And then, which most everyone says yes. Like it's just, it's good for them, bringing in other people, blah, blah, blah. Like we're doing a glow light party night tonight, you know what I mean? So it's like.
Oh, I can't wait for you.
I know, it's going to be so fun.
But it's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, and then like, hey, you do all the competitions in that area, and so like just to have 3 or 4 more trucks running. So I'm in the process of trying to sell my rental properties right now to fund a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And get that off the ground. I feel like that's the next step. Is just like this is working well. It's just too much for me. So it's like I'm just going to rinse and repeat. I'm not going to do anything crazy with it.
Yeah.
I got a whole vision plan for years down the road. But like for this upcoming year, I'm just focusing on the first 2 sentences of that plan, and that's just hiring people and just doing what's working right now.
Yeah.
So
we have a collaboration coming.
Yep.
We got a collab shirt coming.
Got a shirt coming soon.
Coming soon.
Hopefully before Wadapalooza.
Hopefully.
Yep.
Hopefully we'll have it in time for Wadapalooza.
Yep.
I've got a awesome artist working on it.
Yep.
On kind of like putting some things together.
Yep.
We took some of your artwork, took some of my artwork, kind of blended it all together, and we'll just see what comes up.
Yep.
Obviously I'm big into tattoos. Like I love.
I don't have a single one.
Oh man, I've got
My wife just got all hers removed. She had a bunch of little tiny ones. But it was like so many sessions of going back. It's just like just her ankle being swollen up, and I'm like, God, that looks so rough, dude.
Yeah, it's rough for a little bit, and then you got cool art. Like, I love it.
No, I'm talking about the removal.
Oh, the removal.
You ever done the removal?
No.
Oh my gosh, it looks terrible.
No, I was just covering.
Yeah, she got them. She had one on like the back of her neck, and like just little tiny ones, and nothing crazy. But I was like, God, I can't imagine if you have like that. You're trying to get that whole thing off your arm, dude. It would be.
Well, that's why I put a lot of thought in.
You would melt your arm.
I put a lot of thought. I put a lot of thought into what. So all of this has
sticking.
meaning. Yeah, all of this has meaning.
That's going to the grave.
Like each clock is one of the kids' date of birth.
Oh yeah.
So it's like it has meaning behind every piece of it. So
there you go.
But
another question I wanted to ask you something over here. But what like I feel like there's certain points in your career as an entrepreneur, or if like what you're doing. Going through and just being like, hey, this is a hobby, and then now it turns into something way bigger. Like, what was the turning point where you were just like, oh, I'm just doing this as fun, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, like what was there a certain person or something somebody said, or like a person you interviewed where you're like, dang, like okay, like maybe this is going to be the real deal?
So part of it was the reality of actually having a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I had wanted to do a podcast for years.
Yep.
Life on the road.
Right.
Listening to podcasts, listening to Rogan, listening to all sorts of different people.
Yep.
And I think it happened around COVID. A buddy of mine from shout out to Tom Taylor in Tampa area, CrossFit Big Guava. He put out a podcast. Mm-hmm. And he was promoting on his page, and it was just like a little thing that he was putting together and things he was talking about and training and stuff like that. And I listened to it, and I was like, so I messaged him. I was like, Tom, like, what did you need to do this? He's like, literally nothing. I sit in my closet with my phone. I recorded it on my phone, and I upload it for free. Yeah. I'm like, are you kidding?
That's crazy.
He's like, yeah, that's what you do.
Yeah.
So I looked it up, and I was like, okay, what can I do? The first 7 episodes of this show is garbage. It's hot.
Hey, our first couple pieces of apparel were pretty rough too. So
it's bad.
It starts off like that.
I was just throwing anything out there and like talking about all sorts of randomness and weird things because it was always barbells, beats, and buffoonery. Right. So it was just like kind of weird stuff. Like I would read. I think on there. I think I was ending each episode with the survivor's guide thing, like how to survive a shark attack, like how to survive a bear attack, or how to light a fire.
Yeah.
Like
so if it was completely pointless, at least you're getting the back end.
You're getting something.
You're gonna
information.
Yeah.
But I started doing these episodes, and like I would do a music episode and talk about like top 5 albums, like hip hop albums. Yeah. Like if I was going to make a mixtape, who are my top 5 people that I would want on a mixtape? Like stuff like that. And
who would that be? I got to ask that.
Man, I got to remember who we put on there. I mean, Eminem is like, I mean, if I'm it was kind of like a rap battle mixtape. So it's like people that are just going to go in and just flow.
Yeah.
So I had Eminem, I had Black Thought from the Roots. I had David Diggs. So David Diggs is in a band called Clipping.
Okay.
But he was also, if you know Hamilton, he was Lafayette and Jefferson on Hamilton. Okay. The Broadway musical. That's where I heard him. And then he's done a whole bunch of movies and shows and stuff like that. He's an actor, but he's an amazing lyricist. Yeah. Like ridiculous, his flow. So Eminem, Black Thought, David Diggs. There's two others too. Yeah. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but like those are like guys that I'm like, these dudes will wreck anybody. Yeah. But then like I did an episode with Tommy Marquez that was our like a rock festival, like our dream rock festival. And we had like our headliners and we had our like openers and our bands and all this sort of stuff. And like, we built this whole rock festival. It's like, okay, this could be people on this stage. This is the opener. This is the mid show. This is the headliner. Like these are the people you go to see. And Living or Dead, like the biggest thing. So it was pretty cool. Like we had a whole bunch of stuff in there. But the thing the
buffoonery portion of the podcast.
Yeah, the thing that kind of flipped the switch though is I think it might have been on episode 7, 7 or 8. I had my first like guest, and not like one of my friends. Like I'd had friends and stuff on the podcast, but like not a friend. Like my first legitimate guest, and it was Margot Alvarez, and she was fresh off of her appearing on the Titan Games, NBC Titan Games, where she finished second to Danny Spiegel. Yep. And she was I messaged her on Instagram. She responded back. We had a great conversation. We talked about, Titan Games, CrossFit. We talked about her wine company that she has. Like she has her own winery. Yeah. The wine is amazing. I actually ordered it before the show. Yeah. So I had it there. So I opened it right there on the show, and like we had.
You already watched enough podcasts. You know how to.
Yeah. I was like, hey, we want to talk about your product, right? And promote. And then from there, I had like Sean Woodland from Talking Elite Fitness, the voice of CrossFit. Yep. Tommy Marquez came on. And then we started like kind of branching out, and like I started like just messaging everybody, and I would message them on Instagram, and people would respond. Yeah. And like people that I liked and followed and things like that, I would just start like randomly, kind of bring people in.
It's like all they can say is no. It's like I wish people would
or not respond at all.
Or not, yeah, exactly. But it's not like you're not asking for something crazy. Like you're just like, hey, look, I want to give you a little bit of exposure, and it's like that's the same way. Like if I want to do something with somebody, I'm like, hey, can I send you a care package, and I'll just shoot them some stuff. Yeah. Hey, don't worry about tagging us. Don't worry about anything. Just love what you do, and, and just let it sit there. And if they want to bite on it and be like, hey, I'd love to work together 3 months down the road, cool, let's do it. But I mean, it's just like, you got to offer something, some kind of value. And it's crazy to just see, like, you go from this, I mean, you've had Froning, Frazier, Daniel Brandon, Matty Rogers, now me. I don't know how you keep getting the biggest names in the business, but I'm kidding. But, it's just like you keep the ball rolling, and it's crazy. Like if you just stay in the game, like it's not going to happen in the first 6 months of the first year. Like it takes a while for that snowball to get to the point where somebody's like, oh, hey, that's an actual snowball, and not just a snowflake rolling down the side of the hill.
And it's not somebody taking a chance on you.
Exactly.
It's like not somebody like, oh, well, I don't even know who this person is, but I'm going to go ahead and They look and they're like, oh, you've had this, these people, and now like the resume of people that have been on the show, like I said, I have no business talking to them, like in my mind.
I'm the same way.
Of calling these people up and being like, I had an out of body moment at Wadapalooza, I think year 2, like the first year I did the hosting. Yeah. Where like I was talking to people, and they're like, yeah, well, just text me, and they give me their phone number. Yep. And like I would start entering all these phone numbers into my phone, and then I started going through, and I'm like, who's trusting me with this? Exactly. Why do I have these people's phone numbers? Yep. Like, and the list of people that are on there, I'm just like, what? Yeah.
That's how Brian, when he goes like, hey, you want to do like the main floor? I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you want this Blackout Barbell arena? I'm like, this is crazy. And it's like, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, this is what I've been working for. And then other days you're like, what am I doing? How did I even get here? It's like you blacked out the whole way. Yeah. And then you just woke up and now you're here and you've got all these different connections. But
then you get into the situations where I'm doing a podcast with somebody, and like halfway through the podcast I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's like you literally, yeah.
I'm talking to Rich Froning.
Exactly.
And he is just the nicest guy in the world, and very cool, very easy to talk to. Like when we did our podcast, he literally did it from his truck.
Yeah.
Like he was out on the farm, you know, tending to the bison. He's like, yeah, dude, I got like an hour. Like, let's chop it up.
Cool.
And he's sitting there. I think my dog barked in the background. His dog started barking, and they're like, even the dogs were talking back and forth.
We're best friends.
It was like we're buddies now. But then, you know, like I said, you talk to him on a stage, and I think I actually even reintroduced myself to him. And he was like, yeah, dude, I know who you are.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, but once
because I don't feel like they should know who I am, even though I know who they are because
Right.
of their what they do.
Yeah.
But it's just really cool. And then you see, you know, I would say, and we talked about this yesterday, 90% of everybody I've talked to has been like really, really super cool. There's a couple that are just like,
Yeah.
you know, I could
you're gonna get
give or
those.
take, and we won't put them on blast.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, we talked about it. we know. We'll get in trouble. I will get in trouble. But
Little barbecue talks.
yeah, we'll talk over barbecue. But you know, just some of the people like, and the first year I hosted at Wadapalooza, this was the other wild thing. So not only did I host the podcast stage with seminars and all this sort of stuff, so you know, we had people coming through like, you know, Catherine David's daughter, Annie Thor's daughter,
Yeah.
where I'm sitting there doing the Q&As with them and things like that. But then Dylan was like, hey man, you're doing the champions panel. And I'm like, what champions panel? He's like, every year we do a champions panel where we'll give you a list of questions and things, but you're going to do a Q&A with the champions panel. I'm like, okay, like who? He's like, I think this year we got Matt. You know, Fraser's going to be there. Madeiras going to be there just off he had just won, I think, twice. I think that was his double win. He's like, Fraser's going to be there. Madeiras going to be there. Annie, Katrin, Camille LeBlanc-Bazinet, Jason Khalipa, and Ben Smith. I'm like,
Golly.
excuse me? You're going to give me a microphone and put me on the stage with them? Like this.
And you really didn't even know Dylan that much at that point still?
I mean, we knew
Like,
each other.
yeah.
We knew each other well enough.
Right.
Like he knew me well enough to know that I can get up on stage and do that.
Right. Yeah.
But, you know,
Still.
the imposter complex of me is like,
yeah. It's always going to be there.
I am not the guy that should be doing this. Like, nobody wants to hear from me. But that's the beauty of it, is nobody wants to hear from me. So all I have to do is push the spotlight
yeah, it's
back
like you
on
just
them.
got to tee a ball up and let the other person hit
Don't
it.
fumble
It's like,
off the questions. You know, make sure the questions are good. And, you know, it's funny because we can say this now, but had to kind of tread very carefully when we did this, because we did a Q&A. We did two Q&As. We did one Q&A with Katrin and Annie. And the very first question, I should have asked the person what the question was before I let them have a microphone and ask the question. But remember, we're talking about weird people.
Yeah.
And that don't know, it's just ignorance. And this person gets a microphone. I think it was a guy. No, it's definitely a guy. And he said, like, the first question for Annie and Katrin after they did this whole long talk about, you know, sport and their friendship and all this sort of thing, was, have you two ever dated the same guy? I'm like, come on, man. Like,
oh my gosh.
and
yeah, it's like these DM questions that we were talking about. Like that's definitely one of the guys.
And to their credit, they handled it beautifully. I think Katrin was like, listen, Iceland's small, but it's not that small.
That's awesome.
She's like, and for the record, we both have gone outside of our country to find,
like
to find our
you realize
guy.
we all travel the world.
Yeah, like, so, I mean, because Katrin's with Brooks, who's Canadian.
Yep.
And, I think he's Canadian. He lives in America.
Yeah.
But I think he's Canadian originally. And then Frederick is from Finland. So, you know, that whole thing. But she's like, Iceland's not small, but it's not that small. So we do the champions panel. The very first question was for Matt. And they're like, hey, Matt, you know, what do you think about going to Birmingham? This is when the whole Birmingham CrossFit Games talk was up. And at that point, nothing had been announced.
Yeah.
I literally had Dawnfall on the podcast earlier that day. So I just talked to Dawnfall. We talked about Birmingham. And he was like, nothing's been decided, but something will be decided soon.
Right.
So somebody's like, hey, Matt, how excited are you to come to Birmingham? He's like, oh, we're not going to Birmingham. He's like, he looks down at the rest of the panel. He's like, right? He's like, that's pretty much common knowledge. Like, we're not going to Birmingham. It was not common knowledge.
No.
We weren't
Yeah,
going
you got to get the
Birmingham.
guys who like write on a sticky note, put it in a hat, send it up the stage.
He knew. Like
Yeah.
Matt knew the answer because he'd already talked to people. He knew that we weren't going to Birmingham, but that had not been announced.
Yeah.
So, so I kind of, pedal it, and I go, Matt, just to let you know, I just talked to Don Fall on the podcast earlier today. He said, we're gonna have a decision later on, but it hasn't been decided yet.
Yeah.
Like nothing is set.
Yeah.
Walk it off, whatever. We go through the rest of the thing, and I get back down to the floor with Matt, and it was an expletive filled like, like I'm gonna be in so much trouble. Like I should not have said that. It was hilarious because they're cutting it back and forth. He's like, I thought everybody knew. He's like, no, nobody knew. But it really cool to kind of have those like little moments with them.
Exactly.
But it's very cool, and I love like from the beginning, kind of the vibe that you guys had, and I think it's something that everybody relates to.
Yeah.
Coming in the gym, hitting that moment of blackout. I tell Stella that all the time. Like you got to get into the dark place.
She does.
And she does.
Hitting those smelling salts with those buttery bros glasses on. Yeah.
She hit the smelling salts. Again, don't come at me in the comments. My daughter's 11.
It was a dead bottle.
We did one video with a very weak bottle of smelling salts. She hit it, did the lift. That's it.
That's it.
She didn't. She may have done it one more time.
We're good fathers over here.
She may have done it one more time, but like she did it for an Instagram post, and like people were already in the comments like, I don't think that an undeveloped brain should blah 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 blah. Like, she's not hitting it every day. Every day before she goes to school. Sniffing ammonia. But no, it's not necessarily dangerous in a small portion.
Yeah.
But again, back to the brand, everybody resonating with it. It's something that I resonated with right off the bat.
Yeah.
And I love kind of what you guys are doing with the brand. I'm excited to see where it's going to go. Yeah. And that's why I've been a big proponent of being like, hey, let's get it out there.
I love it, man. It's just kind of it's cool because it's like that's what I did in college was business management, and so it's like I always knew that I wanted to go into something. I was super big into bouldering, rock climbing without a harness, back in the day, and working out, and I was like, I'm gonna create this huge rock gym with all this workout area and daycare and a healthy cafe. I was like, that was my presentation when I was in college. We had to give one for a business plan.
Well, dude, I wanted to do a CrossFit gym with the same thing.
Exactly. I think everyone has.
It was gonna have a lap pool. It was gonna have a track around it. Like we're
gonna host the Olympics. Yeah, it's like I feel like everyone who's ever been in the gym has like thought of owning a gym one day. Yeah. It's just a cool vibe, and I love that my work is me coming here every day, to different ones all over. Just being at Adler's gym yesterday and like all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's just crazy the places that you get to go, and it's awesome to get to the places you see. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of what we wanted to do. So it's like the business side of it, it's really cool to see something growing year by year. And then from the design standpoint, it really scratches that creative itch, to create and you design some stuff and you're like, I don't really know if this is gonna, but then you just throw it out and the consumer will tell on you quickly, which ones they do like, which ones they don't. Now that I've been in it for a year and a half, I like to change a lot of stuff out, but you start keeping some of the heavy hitters and you put the other ones down. So just gonna
like this one has been like
we just keep coming out with colorways of that one. It's just like people just love that one. But yeah, all the other stuff, I just try and keep it like really subtle, neutral colors for the most part. You got to throw a little dash in there every once in a while. But that's just my style, and it's just cool to see it come to the CrossFit side of things, and see people rocking it all over Wadapalooza and overseas and stuff. It's awesome. It's a wild journey, and it's like. But it's a lot of hard work. I mean, as it's like they see you interviewing Frazier and all this kind of stuff, and it's like, you don't know the hours that it took to get here. Like, see me, this is your Blackout Barbell, like main floor, and it's like, like I wish you could see the sacrifices that, me and my wife have made. Yeah. It's crazy.
And that said, like Wadapalooza is not easy.
No.
It's not easy. Like,
No, it's not.
Like you see us there. Like, please come up and say hi.
Yeah.
Like if you see us, but if I'm running, like generally I'm running to put out a fire or get something done. But like it's not an easy weekend.
No.
So kudos to my wife for putting up with that because a lot of times she's there just kind of on her own.
Yep.
And just kind of taking in all the sights and going around and all the things. But before we go, because we're rolling, tell people how they can find you. The website, Instagram, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Give them all the info.
So the Instagram is going to be Blackout Barbell. Blackout's all one word, space barbell. You can go on there. The link is in the bio for the website. If you're searching on Google, you can just type in blackoutbarbell.shop. We got everything on there. We ship orders, and it's the funny thing is like people think this is like some huge company. Like people ask like I got 4 warehouses or something. But it's like literally this whole thing is a one-man show.
Yeah.
Like I'm doing all the events.
Go check the truck.
Traveling. Yeah. Like I'm doing everything. I'm literally in here this morning while y'all are doing the 9 a.m. class. I'm over here packaging and shipping orders.
Yeah.
I package them, threw them in the van. After we get done here before the next class tonight, I'm going to take those and drop them off. So it's like literally I'm on the road just doing every single thing. And it's like, it's a lot to do, but it's like, it's just crazy that, like something like this can turn into those warehouses or something, and it's like, you see like Bezos and Elon and all them where they started, and it's like just to see what they have now, it's just super motivating. So we're just really in the thick of it right now, but it's like we're gaining traction. I love it. I love the hustle. I love the lack of sleep I'm getting because of the things that I'm seeing from customers and how happy they are. And I don't know. I feel like I really found my passion. And God, voice cut out there. But I found my passion, and it's like, I just love for the people that we've met, and I just hope you guys stick around for the ride.
Absolutely,
keep on growing.
And if you go to blackoutbarbell.shop, I'm gonna drop my water. Blackoutbarbell.shop, go and use promo code WEXAPPEAL.
WEXAPPEAL.
Get 10% off.
There you go.
Get hooked up with that. You help out the podcast, help out the brand. So get over there, blackoutbarbell.shop. Use code WEXAPEAL, get your discount, and
get you some Christmas goodies.
Yep. And you'll see it on the podcast. You'll see it in Miami. You'll see it in Pensacola, and pretty much all points in between.
Yep.
So, and if you were at the GlowCon,
Yep.
it was legit. It's gonna be a
and remember to do the giveaway.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Podium.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go onto our Instagram. We'll do a co-op thing. We'll just say there's a giveaway.
Yep.
And you have to.
No, let's not even say it's a giveaway. They gotta watch the podcast.
Yeah, you gotta watch the podcast.
Yeah, that's why we give the safe word.
Yes. So you have to watch. Figure out how we do this, because if people start putting it on there.
Well, then everyone's just gonna be like, what are these weirdos typing GlowCon for? It
Well,
makes no sense. You're like, that's your entry fee.
Yeah. So go on the post. We'll do a collaboration post. We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
We'll say
get some exposure to it.
We'll say that if you follow these 3 pages, there's a surprise.
Yeah, we'll do something a little easier.
If you follow these 3 pages, and you put the special code.
Yeah.
From
then
the
you
podcast.
get so you get 3 extra entries for GlowCon. It being in there.
There you go.
I like that.
There you go. You get 3 extra entries.
Anybody can enter, but you get 3 extra if you put GlowCon.
There you go. So tag all your friends. Tell them to listen to the episode. Tell them to watch it on YouTube. Subscribe, like all the pages in Blackout Barbell, Podium, 321 Podium, WEXAPEAL, Tier 1 CrossFit DBP. They'll all be in the post. We'll tag it all. And yeah, man, we're going to have a good time with it.
Yep.
So, thanks, bro.
You.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
You've been listening to the WEXAPEAL podcast. Get connected by heading to Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at WEXAPEAL Podcast for more bonus buffoonery and to get the full Wex experience. Plus, make sure to subscribe on your podcast app today. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time for more barbells, beats, and buffoonery.